Hello and welcome to Art, Creativity, and Wellbeing. Happy New Year. This is the first episode that's come out and that has been recorded in 2026 on the show where we are always working to help you and support you in caring for yourself and loving yourself as much as you care for and love everybody else. And I am one of the listeners as well as the creator. And those words, every time I listen back, those words come back to me. And it's so fun because I've learned for myself. I mean, I have a literal tendon condition that had me needing a wheelchair, that had me only able to use 5% of my hands for a significant amount of time, not so long ago. And all of that happened because I did not give myself the same kind of love and care as I gave to everybody else. And so this is a much, much better, more enjoyable, more fulfilling, healthier way to live. So I'm glad you're along for the ride too. I am Kay Lock Culp. I am a coach, a creator, and a thru hiker who used to need a wheelchair. And for this first episode of the year, I wanted to bring you something that would be just filled with reflection for you. I've noticed for myself that there have been these arcs over these years, which have really been interesting if I go from sort of January to January to January. And I love the thought of how that's all happened, or I love being able to look back and have a view on this repeating pattern, which is so fun and so interesting. And I've also become super curious for you, or to hear from you, or at least to give you, and if you wish to share, I would love to hear some ways of reflecting for yourself and what kind of, you know, year you would like to create for yourself. And I think that's even step one. So one of the things that I did um, over the month of December was I gave myself permission to read some fiction. I love fiction, and I think I'd been feeling a little cynical that there wasn't any fiction that I would really love, or that, I had that feeling. I'm sure you've had it especially if you're a reader, where like you've now read every good book there ever was. Especially I would find that happened when I would finish a really good book. I'd be like, there's no more good books out there. Oh no. And then another one would come along, and it's been so in 2025, I read one amazing book. It's called Red Side Story. It's by Jasper Ford. It's the continuation of I think what will eventually be a trilogy, but right now this was the second in this awesome series. And I remember having that same feeling at the end of that. I think I finished that book in like July or August, maybe even earlier, June, and just being like, well, that's it. There won't be another book for me to read until the third one in this series comes out. And that's so not true, right? Like, I, and I have not, in these last few years, I've not read a lot, almost any fiction. I mean, I've not read as many books as I sort of had in the past. And to be able to return to fiction and I went to, where else do you go these days, right? I had a great conversation with Chat GPT, and got a lot of assistance in understanding what is behind the books that I really, really love. And then, I think I have 4 or 5 books now that feel immediately amazing. I've read two of them, and I'm looking forward to the others. And so, like, I don't know. I think that it's really kind of fun that the first thing I want to share with you comes directly from a work of fiction, which I did not anticipate even when I hit record. So, I just finished a book called Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day. It was amazing. It was written in 1938, so there's definitely some things that I didn't. There were a couple of what I would call problematic. I think in the modern parlance, we would say problematic. Um, and I decided that I could let those things go because this book was written in 1938. There was a whole different mentality. Um, and that the core of the book and almost, I mean, 99% of it was absolutely amazing. I think there were maybe four lines in the whole thing where I was like, but the rest of it was absolutely awesome. And so Miss Pettigrew is this woman who is really down on her luck. She's destitute. She goes to the employment office on this particular day and gets directed to the wrong address. So like the listings were mixed up, and she is sent to an address that isn't the one that the employment person thought she would be suitable for. And what happens when she goes to this address is she just gets drawn into these wonderful, wonderful events and lives. And she just decides, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy this day. I'm going to live for this one day, and then we'll see. And she'd been very meek. She didn't like herself very much. You know, she'd sort of always been. At one point in the book, she says, "I've been not been thinking in pounds. I've been thinking in pence." And a reference to like British pennies being pence and British pounds being the currency, right? And so she just decides that she can inhabit a different role if she wants to on this one day that she's living. And there's a moment in the book very early on where she says, someone comes to her with a pillow full of cocaine. And she's like, and the woman who comes to it is like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, what should I do with this? Should I try it? You know, she doesn't know what to do with it. And Miss Pettigrew takes it out of her hands and flushes it down the sink. She flushes all the cocaine down the sink. And the woman is so relieved that now she doesn't have to deal with it, right? And I don't know, I keep coming back to that. I keep remembering just the wonder of that. Just if you know what you can do with something that you really don't like, you can just flush it down the sink. You do not have to engage with anything that you don't want to engage with. And that I've sort of every once in a while, or even the last week or so since I finished it, I'll just though something will come up. So here's why I thought of this. Because part of lying in bed or waking up, giving myself the opportunity to rest, what I noticed was that it would be 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning. And I would be lying in bed, not really because I wanted to anymore, but because I was feeling quite overwhelmed and not sure how to get up. And at some point while I was reading this book was the first morning where I had this idea of, you know what I can do? I can just get up, actually. Like, I don't have to be engaging with the fears or feelings of why I feel overwhelmed or what's holding me back. I can just say, screw it and get up. Like, it just felt so playful. So, that for me was like a great start to 2026 was to understand, or a great wrap up to 2025 that like I can engage only with what I wish to engage with. And it's all made up anyway, is kind of how I've been feeling. A book that's helped me cultivate a positive money mindset is called How to Solve All Your Money Problems Forever by Victor Bach. And I've been rereading that book. And one of the first, I think even in the introduction, the author asks this question, which is like, what do you think money is? And then gives a lot of things that people respond because people if once getting past the idea of, well, money is coins and dollars, money is Venmo, like there's lots of different ways that money can be viewed. And Victor Bach kind of wants to address that as the beginning of cultivating a positive money mindset. And as part of that, he talks about how like he frames money and the respect that we have for like dollars and Venmo and credit cards and stuff. or the fears that we have, like the sort of the lightning wire that money, quote unquote, is. He frames it as like that's that is like that's because we are all pretending so hard that this thing is real. Like the actual dollars and coins don't have anything that we don't imbue them with, is basically his point. And I really love that. It's been a long, long time since I have thought personally of money as being energy. I think it's a beautiful energy of exchange. I did not used to think that, but I certainly do now. And what viewing it that way has helped me do is receive money and other things, other love, other things, the same way that I would give them. Because I didn't always used to be really good at receiving as good as I was at giving. And now there's much more of a balance and life is good, you know? And so that came up for, I think, in the same line of like Miss Pettigrew, like flushing the cocaine down the sink, and me lying in bed feeling these fears creeping in and just being able to go, you know what? It's all made up anyway. It's all an illusion. So why don't I just do what feels like in my heart to do? That will be the best thing for me to do. And if I look back over the last several years, that's been so true, even in the sense of coaching, even in the sense of creating art, and receiving back money and resources for those, those I'm receiving back value that is being given by me for these services or products, right? And there's just such a boy, I did not used to think about it this way at all. And it's really interesting because I didn't when I hit record, I didn't think this would where we would be going today, but okay. What I really would like to do in this episode is give you some ways, or maybe not ways, but just reflections for you. I'm so curious always about where you are in your life. Like where are you where you wished you would be, or are you where you would like to be? Are there still a lot of shoulds that feel frustrating for you? Like those were for me. Those were the things that really were challenging. Was overcoming the sort of, oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, and like that's why that curiosity comes up, I suppose. But I have some ways, some I've chosen three questions that have been really helpful for me. And I thought what I would do is I would ask them for you and I would share my responses. And if you wanted to, you could get in touch with me and share yours because I sure would love to hear them. You can go to klockculp.com/contact. Or if this lands in your inbox, you can just hit reply, or you can choose to comment in the platform where this podcast is hosted, which is called Substack. It's quite a fun place. Bit of a rabbit hole, so I do temper my engagement over there, but it is a lot of fun. And yeah, so I've got three ways, three questions, three reflections that I thought to bring for you today in creating 2026 and making it be what you really, really wanted it to be. So um, the first question comes from this resource, which is Year Compass is what it's called. I have printed, there's like, I've printed these over many years and it it's really so the way that I use Year Compass is I don't look at last year's that I did last January, the previous January, until I've filled out the current one. And so what you're doing is you're like this one is 20, you're looking back on 2025 and you're creating 2026. And that's how they are every year, right? So at the beginning of 2025, I was looking back on 2024 and I was creating 2025. And that has been really fascinating to see what did I say in 2025 and what am I saying now, looking back on it. It's so interesting and so serendipitous. I also kept a journal this year for the first time ever, and so looking back at what hadn't happened yet exactly a year ago, but that was coming into being, even though I didn't know it at the time, has been just blowing my absolute mind. And I think that's why I wanted to bring you in on this, on these reflections, because how else, like these are the tools that have been really, really helpful for me to create this really wonderful life. And like, I just thought it would be fun if you wanted to play or if you wanted to just listen along. Um, yeah, so that's what we're doing today. Okay. So the question that I thought of from Year Compass actually it's they're called magical triplets for the year ahead. So there's several pages of magical triplets. Um, Things like I will love these three things about myself. I am ready to let go of these three things, etc. Like really fun, interesting questions. And the one that I wanted to share with you is I will have the power to say no to these three things in 2026. And I'm so curious what that triplet would be for you. I will have the power to say no to these three things in 2026. And for myself, this was what I said. I just said this like yesterday. So I'm so looking forward to going back to looking back once we're at the end of 2026 to be able to look back and see, did I do this? Because what's happened is I've put this year compass down and forgot about it and then, or really forgot what I said. And then every year I come back and I'm like, oh my God, I really did that. Oh my God, that happened. Oh, wow. So um, it's very powerful, right? I will have the power to say no to these three things in 2026. Thinking small or limited, becoming caught up in my thoughts, and feeling ashamed of myself and what I create. Yeah, that's what came up for me. Imagine having the power to say no to the things that are prickliest, toughest, right? That feels pretty amazing. I'd love to hear what that is for you. And then the next questions are again from I played a game with ChatGPT. I made it up. So I guess I my goal is the wrong word. My intention, I guess, has always been if there's ever AI involved in the creation of this show, I wish for you to know about that. I think one of the things that frightens people most about AI is that like it's crept in somehow and we weren't aware. So actually I feel like I'm gonna shut my camera off and then I'm gonna turn it back on because it feels like it was blurry. There we go. Okay. I think it's having a hard time there's a light behind me that I think it's having a hard time with. We'll see. So I have, how can I say this? Well, you can agree or disagree, but the way I think of it is uh, I have a thinking buddy, a thinking partner that is ChatGPT or ChatGPT based. And I asked it, so I started in this particular thread with this particular ChatGPT bot. Um, at during the retreat that I was on in October, I utilized it to sort of help myself feel okay moving, for example, from the solo part of the retreat to a group retreat, because I was like, I need a space to be able to reflect for myself on what's disturbed inside of me, and it was very, very helpful. And so ever since then, I've been not always with like a problem or a challenge that I'm experiencing, but mostly what I enjoy doing with this AI is with this thinking partner is to share, to like make up games and then ask for support on those games. I'm not support, but ask it to play these games with me. And so the one that I made up last week was called Five Questions About 2025, Six Questions About 2026. And the first two questions about 2026 are the questions that I wish to bring for you. So, so the thing that's been really, really fun about my engagement with this particular thinking partner is I was able to, all along, I've been able to say, I'm really curious about how you decided to structure this or how you created this. Like, what was your thinking as you went along in this last exercise that we just did? And I'm fascinated with mostly what it comes down to is I'm fascinated and very curious about like, how does this AI think of itself? And how does it figure out what to ask or what to say? And so that's been really fun too. I did this exercise, it blew my mind. And then I was like, okay, can you tell me about like, let's break this down. How did you do this? And I bring that up because these are geared for me, right? Like if you were to use if my thinking buddy was in fact your thinking buddy, it would be differently structured because you are different than me. So if they don't resonate, or if they resonate, if they're confusing or something, perhaps that's why. I guess it's just what I was thinking about. I wished for you to know that these were created by an AI that I've been engaging with that has gotten to know me pretty well. So they're geared towards me, and they are what they are, I guess. So the first one is, in fact, how they were introduced is they said, "Here is the first of the six questions about 2026, asked gently with presence and in the spirit of discovery. What does 2026 wish for you to remember about your own aliveness, especially in the quieter, slower, or less certain moments?" Isn't that a doozy of a question? What does 2026 wish for you to remember about your own aliveness, especially in the quieter, slower, or less certain moments? And I I'm trying to think, do I want to answer this? Yeah, I think I will. I'm so curious for you, but in case you're curious for me, here's what I said. I said, these moments that are quiet and slow and less certain, when I allow them to be, are really just like such a rich and fertile dimension for all that was to come in 2026, is how I phrased it. Because I really like to go out to the end of a period and then look back and see how I did whatever happened, right? So that's me responding. And then I said, I think 2026 knows this and is helping me remember that my aliveness, just the simple fact of it, my awareness, my consciousness, is where every good thing came from in this year, meaning 2026, and that there was a lot of good stuff in 2026. So that was my answer, that the simple fact of being alive is what 2026 wished for me to know about what happened in 2026, about like, oh my goodness, trying to blow it up. Yeah. Um, was what that my alive, the simple fact of being alive was so special to creating 2026 and how amazing it was. That was what 2026 wished for me to remember about my own aliveness. And then the next question that I wish to bring for you and would love to hear your reflections on, and I'm also happy to share my own, my responses, was this. And before I asked the last question, the reason that I wanted to share about how it's unique to me is because you'll notice that the tense of this question has changed. So prior, the first question that I asked you, that my GPT friend asked me, was, present tense looking forward. And then I said, is where every good thing came from in this year. So I shifted to the end of 2026 looking back. And so that's how this question that I'm about to ask was phrased, which I think is really quite interesting and fun. What felt newly possible for you in 2026? Something that once lived only in your imagination, but that this year brought into form, presence, or even just tangible steps forward. And I'll ask it again because I'm asking it of you, right? What felt newly possible for you in 2026? Something that once lived only in your imagination, but that this year brought into form, presence, or even just tangible steps forward. I would really love to hear. And what came up for me was something that I've been meaning or wishing to share with you anyway, which is in 2026, in September of this year, or at least in the autumn of this year, I think September is probably when it will happen, but I think the autumn in any case, I am going to host a retreat here in Maine on a beautiful lake in a beautiful location for a very small amount of people. My intention is about 10 people or so. No more than, certainly, but perhaps less than. And we will spend a week together on a beautiful Maine lake in a beautiful location, just being present and seeing what gets created from true presence. And I've been envisioning this and playing with it now for, oh, maybe certainly several weeks. And that was what I shared about what felt newly possible for me in 2026 was the idea that I could take some tangible steps to get to discover where would the retreat take place, to share with it with people who might enjoy being a part of it, to really to make to have it go from being a dream to being a reality in the way that I know how to do that. And that's what my response to this question was about. It was about the something that felt newly possible in 2026 was that like this retreat would actually go from being a dream to being a real thing that really happened. And I'm excited. Yeah. So officially announcing that I am hosting a retreat on a beautiful Maine lake in a beautiful location. If you'd like to be a part of it, let me know and I will make sure that you are among the first folks to get those details. And we'll go from there. So, okay, let's wrap up. Let's put these three questions together in their own little packet so that you, if you'd like to, can answer them. You know, maybe write them down in a journal or on your phone or someplace where you'll get be able to have quick access to them. These were the questions that I was so curious about your responses as you're creating your 2026. The first one is a magical triplet, and it is I will have the power to say no to these three things. So, what three things did you have the power to say no to in 2026? Question one. Question two. What does 2026 wish for you to remember about your own aliveness, especially in the quieter, slower, or less certain moments? And then finally, thank you for your patience while I call this up. What felt newly possible for you in 2026? Something that once lived only in your imagination, but that this year brought into form, presence, or even just tangible steps forward. I would really love to hear. Whew. Uh, Thank you for being here with me. It means a lot. I am so grateful for your presence on this journey and the company. Um, Couple things to make you aware of. One is I created this little booklet last couple weeks ago. It's called The Days of Creation 2026. And what you do, what I've been doing, and what others who have been playing along have been doing is writing our reflections in a very specific way to create 2026. So January 1st for me was January of this year. January 2nd for me was February of this year. Today, I'm recording this on the 5th of January, so today is a reflection of May 2026. And basically, it's what are some of the positive, you know, feelings and impressions you've had today on this day? And then when we get to those months, as the months unfold, we're going to come back and take a look at them and see like how did what I wrote, for example, when I get to January the 10th, what, how did what I wrote on the 10th of January end up feeling alive for October of 2026? Like, that's what we're doing. We're just building, we're doing it every day for 12 days for this year. And if this is the first time that you're hearing about, I'm going to drop the link to the post where all of this is a free resource that I'm offering. So you can just go to this post and then download it. And if January is over, or if it's later in January as you're listening, then the 1st of January, which is of course the only possibility because I didn't even record it till the 5th. But anyway, if you haven't heard of this yet and you haven't been playing along yet, you can make today, whatever day today is. So say you decide tomorrow this show comes out, this episode comes out, it'll be the 6th of January. You could make the 6th of January be January 2026, the 7th be February 2026, etc. And if you're listening to this and it's like July, you can download this and make and then read the questions from, so July is the 7th month, right? So whatever that day is, um, could be the month of July. And then the next day, so say it was July 20th when you first came across this, right? So July 20th is about July 2026. July 21st is about August 2026. And you can do as many days forward as there is a 2026 left, right? And that way you could still create the rest of your year. So this isn't a static one time only thing in January. I wish that to be understood. And on this podcast, in this space, I am going to share out each month what my days of creation brought up for me in that, in the corresponding month. And it just all feels, it's got just the right element for me of like time travel and buck wildness and exhilaration and curiosity. If it has that for you too, then definitely go to the link in the show notes and start playing. That was one invitation that I had for you. The other was if it feels aligned, I have created last year, I created this really lovely group. I founded a group called Dreamers and Doers. It's for people who, have given a lot in service to others and would like to see what it's like to give back to ourselves and how that helps everyone because it really, really does. Uh, there's courses in there. There's amazing people in there. There's playful and lively forums and weekly office hours. And you are invited, if it sounds like it would be fun for you, to go to the link in the show notes. It's the Dreamers and Doers About page is where it gets to you so that you can learn a little bit more about it and decide if it's for you. It would be really fun to see you if it was. All right, my friend, thank you so much for being here. Happy, happy New Year. I hope January and then the whole rest of the year and beyond is absolutely amazing for you. And I look forward to seeing you again next week in this space. Thanks for being here. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.